Hello everybody, and welcome to the first video of our Krav Maga White Belt Introductory course. My name is Michael South with the Global Martial Arts University. This is Adelaide. She's going to be taking basically a Krav Maga private lesson today. She's going to be learning some of the basic skills necessary in order to be successful in some of the beginner level courses here at the Global Martial Arts University. Through the years we've been grading testing videos on the the lower level testing videos, and there are certain mistakes and misunderstandings that happen in many of these videos, not all of them, but a lot of them. And so we want to take the opportunity to address some of those things and just make sure we have a really good understanding going forward, so that way we can have a good foundation to move forward with. Now, the very first thing that we want to do is stance and movement. So in Krav Maga, we want to have a certain stance that essentially all of our combatives come from. So when we talk about the guard stance or the self-defense stance, whatever you want to call it, I want you to take your right foot and put it back behind you so your feet are about shoulders width apart. So rather than pointing your toes sideways, I want you to point all 10 toes at me. Now, and this is something that I might as well address really quick. I am actually naturally kind of duck-footed. My feet want to go like this. That's just what I'm comfortable doing. So when I make a stance, when I first started doing martial arts, I stood like this all the time, which in some traditional martial arts is acceptable. In Krav Maga, we actually want to have all 10 toes facing towards our attacker or towards our training partner, facing forward. So I want you to bring that foot in just a little bit. So they should just be naturally underneath your shoulders. Now, we want to bend those knees a little bit like this. So it's kind of like you're ready to start running at any point. Your elbows are going to be pointed down at the mat. In front of you, palms facing towards me. So this is the basic stance that most of our defenses are going to start in. If you're aware of a threat that's in front of you and it's time to become the attacker, all that good stuff, this is where we want to be. So notice that the hands are palms facing towards me and the hands are open, okay? One of the things that we talk about is the things that we communicate with our body language can escalate or de-escalate a self-defense situation. If I see this, I see somebody that's telling me to get away, we call this a fence. It's putting up a barrier between her and myself, but I don't see anything. I can't really, she's not conveying any aggression whatsoever. Now, go ahead and make fists for me. If I see this, I see somebody that wants to fight, somebody that wants to punch, that sort of thing, okay? So if somebody is, making threats or they're pushing us or whatever the case might be, if you put your fists up like this, you might actually escalate that situation, and so that's something that we want to avoid doing. Now, the good news is, if I went to throw punches at her and she wanted to parry my hands or whatever, so wanted to redirect those punches, her hands need to be open anyway. So by opening your hands, palms facing towards the person, not only are you better able to defend yourself, but you're also not communicating, you're not trying to escalate it in any way by having that aggressive body language. So this is that first stance. Now, in order to move around, we want to be able to stay in this stance all the time. So we can't just start crossing our feet, we can't walk, anything like that. So whichever direction you move, the foot that's closest to that direction must move first. So for example, if you're going to move forward towards me, this foot, your front foot, must move first. So show me how to just take one step with that foot, and now just adjust your stance, just like that. So we call that step slide or step and drag. You're not actually dragging your feet, but it's just following. So one of my first instructors taught me that if you can imagine you have a big rubber band on one ankle connected to the other ankle. You can stretch out the rubber band or anything, but you don't want to give it slack so that it touches the ground in between your feet. Okay, so maybe that analogy helps you, maybe it doesn't, but I want you to stretch it out a little bit by taking a step forward, and then you can adjust, just like that. Now, if you wanted to move backwards, it would be the same thing. Pretty simple, right? So now if you want to move sideways, if you want to move this direction, your right foot has to move first, go ahead, and then your other foot moves first. Okay. Now, when you do that, it's very easy to understand that concept, of course, but it sort of makes you kind of take these robotic steps, and that's not really natural for a self-defense or a sparring situation, right? So you want to be able to move around and to feel natural and comfortable without crossing your feet and staying in this stance, to an extent. So it's always good to do drills as you learn this stance so you can start to get comfortable with it. Because if you find yourself doing this, and especially if you find yourself thinking about which foot needs to take a step first and which foot needs to drag, it's just going to be difficult to remember, okay? So when we change directions, for example, we would just shuffle like this, all right? So I want you to try to keep me in front of you, and I'm going to go over to this side, and I just want you to shuffle and do your best to stay in your stance. You're going to do basically 180 degrees of rotation, okay? So I'm just going to walk over here, and you're shuffling. Very good. So now I want you to actually get like a little, kind of almost like a hop skip going on. Okay, so when I walk over here, just like that, not crossing the feet. So the idea is, if she does cross her feet and I were to push her or to hit her at any point while those feet are crossed, she could lose her balance and then she's on the ground, which is a place that we certainly don't want to be in a self-defense situation. So as I walk over, we're here. If I walk towards you, if I walk away from you, good. Now, make sure you're not standing on a balance beam, okay? Anytime that your feet go in line with each other, they might not be considered crossed, but they're still too close to have good balance. So keep those knees bent, stay nice and low, bend just straight down. Keep your back upright, yeah. Now let's move around a little bit. Very nice, very nice. Now, very first technique, you can just relax for a second. Very first technique that I want to cover today is the palm strike. Okay. Now, when I do a straight punch of any kind, there's a couple of mechanics of the body that are going to be true with all these types of punches, regardless of whether you're hitting with your knuckles or your palms. Now, in general, if I punch somebody, I run the risk of hurting my hand. I'm actually swinging a smaller target, all that good stuff. It's a little bit safer to hit with open palms. It's not going to hurt my hand as much, regardless of what I hit. I always tell my students, especially with some of my kids, I ask them if they're willing to punch the wall as hard as they possibly can with a closed fist. And most of the time they're not willing to do that because it might hurt their hand. As we say, the bones in the face are actually harder than the sheetrock on the wall is. And so I can strike, pretty hard. Most people would probably be willing to hit the hand on the wall with their hand open. That's one of the things that we're talking about here. Plus, my hand is much larger if it's open than my fist is. So if those hands are, show me that stance again. All we're doing is extending the hand straight out in front. Go ahead and keep your stance where it is. So move that right foot back over a little bit and just bend your knees slightly. No, that's not slightly, just a little bit, just a little bit. There we go. Okay, awesome. So we extend this hand out just like that. Now, as this happens, we want to align the shoulders a little bit, but we're not pivoting on the front foot. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more here in a little bit. She can hit anywhere with her hand on me. The idea is that the hands are open, if the fingers are kind of relaxed. If she makes connection, with my jaw, with the heel of her hand, which is going to be the hardest surface that she can strike with, she might even kind of get an incidental eye gouge in there as well. So that's perfectly fine. So we don't curl the fingers in. We don't do anything like that. That could certainly hurt your fingers just like anything else could. So we just leave the hand open, and we're trying to extend the heel of the hand a little bit further than any other surface of the hand. So we go straight out and then straight back in. One of the things that we want to avoid doing is flaring that elbow up as we go out. So show me how to go straight out and then straight back in. Yeah, now I want you to bend those knees just a little bit, and now I want you to go straight out, align those shoulders, and then right back in. Okay, now show me your backhand. So go straight out and straight back in. Now when you do this, I want you to have your heel slightly up off the ground, and I want you to push off the ball of your right foot, so that way your whole entire body is engaged in the strike. Yeah, so twist and pivot on that foot a little bit. You're going to have to pivot a little bit. There, okay, that's a whole lot. And that's not a dance move. We're just going to pivot just a little bit. There you go. Okay, now we're just joking around. I'm not being mean to her, I promise. So on the other side, show me your stance. Okay, so I want you, with those knees bent, I want you to think about basically the strike. It's originating in that back foot. So as I'm here, I'm actually pushing and driving, and I'm going to straighten out my leg a little bit at the same time. Yeah, just like that. Go ahead and do that again. That's a little bit better. Okay, so show me your jab or your front hand, and then the cross or the backhand. Very good. Don't forget to use your whole body. Very nice. So jab, cross, go. Very nice. So try to hit this target on the center line. Ready, go. Jab, cross. Good. That's not bad. Jab, cross. Notice that she's moving her shoulders. That's going to be more powerful than if she's just moving her arms. A big mistake that people make that I see a lot if we hit a pad like a tombstone like this, if I want her to do a flurry of punches, what I see a lot is just this over and over again with the body still squared up to the target. You're missing out on a lot of power, and you're also not protecting your chin, okay? So show me the jab sticking way out there and then across. So regardless of whether she's going fast or slow, it should still look somewhat like that all the time. So show me just jab cross one time. That's pretty good. Go. One more time. Okay, now I want you to do that combination, so the 2 strikes, but do it 2 times in a row. Okay, so it's going to be 4 total. Go. Good. So she just did the same motion, 4 times. So, or the same combination twice, rather. Now, if she were to keep her body square and just start doing this, okay, not only is that much less powerful, but as she's throwing her strikes, okay, if I happen to be striking at the same time, I can still make connection with her. You actually see sometimes in MMA fights, people are able to hit each other at the same time if we're able to shrug the shoulders up, tuck your jaw down. Now, no, you still got to be able to look at me. Now look, when you're here, I want you to think about hiding your jaw a little bit with your shoulder, okay? So now if I just happen to be punching at you, I might hit you, I might glance off your head, it might not feel great, but I'm not gonna knock you out. If I hit your jaw, you run the risk of getting knocked out. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay. So show me how to go straight out, we can just high five. Yeah, and now think about making just a little bit of connection with that shoulder on your jaw. Go. That's pretty good, go. Now show me your cross. Very nice, cross. Good. So if you remember, come over here and just relax for me for a second. So if you remember all those things, working in unison together, that should, your technique should look the same whether you're just doing a 1-2 combination or if you're doing a flurry of strikes. Another thing that you run the risk of when you do a flurry of strikes, which I'm not saying you shouldn't do a flurry, I'm just saying some common mistakes that I see when people do that, is they sort of tend to lean into the target. So you're kind of leaning, it's almost like the target is catching you over and over again. If she throws her body weight into it, she's supposed to do that, but only in a rotational way, okay? Not in a leaning forward kind of way, because if she were to miss the target, she would run the risk of falling over, losing her balance at least a little bit, okay? So now I want to use this pad so we can kind of think about all those different things together. Why don't you stand right about here facing the pad and show me that stance. So now we're building a lot of different things here. So now let's remember the knees need to be slightly bent, all 10 toes are facing towards the target, and then your back heel is slightly up off the ground. Yeah, palms facing the target. Okay, so when I say go, I want you to show me just a regular 1-2 or jab cross combination. Ready, go. Good, now try to use some power, go. That was stronger, good, go again. Okay, now let's remember though, your jaw, yes, you already were, yeah, that's right, ready, go. Yeah, so it's gonna help. Sometimes if I'm way up here like this and I think about bringing my shoulder all the way up, that might be difficult. Try to just shrug your shoulders up a little bit like you're already protecting, so that way when I reach out, it's just kind of naturally finding my jaw. Go. Do the, very good. Go. Okay, now let's make sure that on that right hand, you're pivoting on your back foot. Go. That's pretty good. Go. Go. Okay, now I want to see that pad moving a lot though. You need to be powerful. Let's give it a try. Okay, all right. Let's really try to knock it over now. Okay, yeah. Now, as you can see, hopefully you can tell that the backhand is much more powerful than the front hand. It doesn't matter if she's left-handed, it's still, because this is her backhand, that's allowing a lot more rotation, a lot more forces behind it. And that's what it should always look like. So if you think about your jab is gonna have a little bit, it's gonna have a little bit more distance, a little bit more reach. That's like a gauging strike, okay? It's gonna keep people away from you, it's gonna determine how far away they are, all that good stuff, and it should be really fast. The cross is the power shot, okay? So that's what it should always look like. If you're hitting a pad like this, obviously it doesn't require a training partner, but it's also a good indicator of how powerful your striking is, okay? Let's do that combination a couple more times, and we're gonna try a flurry. So let's go just jab cross, ready, go. Okay, come on, show me some speed and power. That's much better, go. Okay, time. Now let's add one more thing to it. And you're like, how could we possibly add anything else? I know, the simple techniques actually have a lot to them. Last thing that we're going to add, maybe not the last thing, there might be more later. We want to deflate these lungs, okay? So when we breathe out, it's going to be a little bit more powerful for lots of reasons. One of the main reasons is that as you rotate, if your lungs are full of air, your body just doesn't rotate as well. So when you blow air out, your lungs deflate and you can rotate a little bit better. So let's try to breathe out. You don't have to make any weird sounds or anything like that, but just blow out air as you're throwing your strikes. Ready, go. That's good, go. I like how you're using the heels of your hand. Very good, go. Come on, show me some power. Your stance has gotten a little bit wide on us. Let's make sure that you're like you're ready to run at any time. Knees bent a little bit. Okay, go. Pivot on that back foot. There, okay, not quite that much. That's a dance move. That's a dance move. Show me just a small pivot. Okay, good, go. Push with that back foot. Push, push into the pad. Don't fall over. Go. Make sure you're not leaning. Go. Okay, nice. Now, when I say go, I want you to do a flurry of punches. But remember, you're not going to change the technique just because you're doing it over and over again. You're just going to do jab cross over and over again. Ready, go. Okay, time. Good. So, you can go ahead and relax for a second, catch your breath. Now, when we're doing strikes like that, if you are filming for a test or something like that, if you're filming palm heel strikes, one of the things that is helpful is to break up the technique. So instead of just going left, right, over and over again, you can double up on your jab and then throw across and then do jab cross and just kind of break it up like that, just to make sure that you're always using proper body sponsorship, which means I'm not just throwing my arm, I'm throwing my whole body. The body is sponsoring the motion of the arm, and you have good body alignment as well. So if I'm here, my face is exposed, I don't have good proper alignment, my shoulders aren't aligned with the strike, all that good stuff. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the next lesson. Okay, so for the next lesson on palm strikes, we're going to use some hand targets now. Now, obviously, when you're doing any sort of training at home, it's very, very helpful to have a training partner. Now, if you don't have a training partner right now, that's okay, because again, we're just going over the really basic fundamentals of stance, movement, combatives, all that good stuff we're going to be building up. I did want to address a couple things about having hand targets. Now, whether you have focus mitts or whether you have these weird square hand targets that I have here, a lot of these things are going to be similar no matter what type they are. So go ahead and face towards me and get into that stance. Now, anytime we hit pads, you want to hit the pad that's across from you. So if she's using her left hand, I'm going to be holding with my left hand. Go ahead, just like that, okay? You don't want to hit the pad that's directly across from you because you're not going to have proper body alignment. You're not going to be rotating enough, all that good stuff. Also, it allows me to kind of get some reps in myself. If you look at it, we're both in the same stance right now. If I ask for a jab, I too am throwing a jab. If I ask for a cross, I too am throwing a cross. Now obviously the angle of my arm is going to be a little bit different, all that good stuff, but I am kind of throwing the same technique. A couple of pieces of advice for pad holders. The most common mistake I see is people hold pads like this. Don't do that, because my job is to simulate the target on my body that she is practicing to hit. She is practicing to palm strike me right in the face, okay? Hopefully she's going to make connection somewhere around the nose area. It's going to cause a lot of pain. It's going to cause my eyes to water. Might give her just enough time of me going like this for her to get away, disengage, whatever the case might be. So we're not punching people in the shoulders, and people don't have heads way out here, so I need to find the center line right before she makes contact with it, and it's also my job to hold this pad at my head level. She is training with me, so she's practicing punching somebody in the face or palm heel striking somebody in the face. That's my height, so I'm not going to hold up here, and I'm not going to hold down there. I'll hold right where my face is. So I'm here, I'm going to meet her in the middle like that. So I'm here, boom. So jab, cross, ready, go. Jab, cross. Jab, cross. Hit it hard. Go. Breathe. Very nice. Now, also, when I hold the pads out like this, even if I were to bring it to the center line, if I just hold the pad in a stationary manner, if I just hold it still and I allow her to continually hit and make my arm go a little bit past its normal range of motion, that's going to make me really sore. I learned that lesson the hard way with a really big guy a long time ago, and I just never want to feel the way my shoulders felt ever again. That's when I was taught you need to actually meet them with some force. So don't hold the pad still and allow them to hit you over and over again, but rather give them some resistance. So go ahead and hit it hard. Boom, just like that. So that allows them to really open up and give some more power as well. So as we're here, let's do jab cross. Breathe. That foot's getting away from us. Let's get right there. Bend, just like this. Yeah. Now don't squat down, just bend your knees a little bit. There you go. All right, ready? Go. Okay, so if she was wanting to demonstrate to an instructor in a distance learning program, she would need to explain a couple of things like, hey, you know, I want to make sure that my feet are shoulders width apart, and then she's going to want to show me at several different angles. So as her training partner, I'm going to be here. We've showed a couple of times there, so now let's go face this direction. So that way we can get a great view of her shoulders, make sure she's rotating enough. Take a look at that heel. Is the back heel slightly up off the mat? Yeah, and make sure you're pivoting. Go. Yeah, let's see some power. Go. Good. I like the breathing. Very nice. Go. Good. Now let's have another angle. All right. Ready? Go. Very nice. Okay, stand right back over there for me. Awesome. So now that we've seen it from several different angles, we can get a really good idea of her incorporating all the different layers of those palm heel strikes that we were talking about. Now the good news is there aren't new details necessarily for all of our different combatives when we're standing on our feet. The stance, the movement, the way that you pivot, the way that you put all your body weight behind the strikes, all that good stuff. There's going to be similar things like that with all of the combatives that we do. Obviously, we're just using different parts of the arm, different parts of whatever in order to strike our opponent. But those are palm heel strikes.